Who doesn't want to help? The birds that frequent our yards. One way people like to give them help is by supplying nesting materials during the spring. Although this seems like a great idea and it can be fun to do, there are some rules that should be followed to ensure the safety and health of our feathered visitors. Today I'm going to cover those things that can be safely given to birds for nesting materials, those things that should be avoided at all times, and at the end of the video I'm going to cover the #1 way that you can offer nesting materials to birds. Going to start on a positive note and cover the things that can be safely given to birds for nesting material. The big thing here is to think natural, and especially natural and plant-based. This would include materials such as dead twigs and dried leaves, dried grass, bark strips, moss, pine needles, and plant fluff like that produced by cottonwood trees and milkweed seed pods. Of course, these are things that are found in most of our yards, but if you want to put some of them in a clean suet cage, a mesh sack such as onions come in, stuff them into crevices of a tree's bark, or just leave a small pile of them in a location where you can watch and enjoy birds collecting them, that is perfectly fine. Just be sure none of the materials you provide have been treated with pesticides, as they may be toxic to young birds. If you love watching the birds in your yard, flap on over and perch on that like button. Some of you may be wondering, why hair and fur are not on this list? They're natural after all, so what's the problem with them? When it comes to hair and fur and birds using it in a nest, there are a lot of variables that come into play. What kind of hair is it? How long is it? How strong is it? And has it been treated with pesticides that could be toxic to birds? Do birds use hair in nest? Yes. Do some types of hair cause problems for baby birds? Absolutely. So to be safe, skip hair and fur of any kind. There are plenty of other alternatives. If you would like to learn about all things bird nest related, check out the Backyard Ecology episode where Shannon talks to the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, Nest Watch. I'll link it down in the description. And also, if you listen to the podcast, let me know in the comments, and also let me know what your favorite episode is. I'm also going to drop a few links in the description for some field guides you may find useful. A couple are guides for bird identification, and one is a guide for identifying nests you may find. These are guides we use, and we highly recommend them. Now on to the things not to provide as nesting material. Along with the already mentioned hair, avoid things that are synthetic and anything that could be considered string. This would include things like yarn, thread, plastic, and dryer lint. The big problem with synthetic materials is they do not biodegrade and just add to the pollution problem. And if they are stringy, they can tangle around a baby bird's legs or wings, either leading to entrapment in the nest or even cinch down tight enough to cause amputations. I know yarn has long been recommended, but recent research has shown it is not safe. Please do not put it out for birds to use. Dryer lint may look fluffy and great for a nest, but once wet it basically disintegrates and has no loft. Not to mention it is composed of a high percentage of synthetic fibers. And now we come to what is the best way to provide nesting materials for the birds. It's one you don't really have to think about if it's safe or not, and it is also one that many watchers of this channel are already doing. Gardening with native plants. A garden or landscape filled with native plants is like a home improvement store for nest building birds. They have access to twigs, dead leaves, seed fluff, bark, and even things such as spider webs and moss. The availability of many nesting materials is increased if you delay cutting back your dead plants from the previous year until late spring, or if you do cut them back earlier, loosely pile them up off to the side for the birds to pick through. A huge advantage with using your native plant garden for providing nesting materials is that it also helps feed the nestling birds with the caterpillars and insects it attracts, and will feed the juveniles and adults preparing for migration in the fall with the seeds it produces. An ecosystem-based approach is always best. One group of plants that produces nesting material, attracts a ton of insects, and is the host plant for what may be the most famous butterfly in the world is the milkweed family. To learn about a couple that are great garden choices for the eastern United States, check out this video and be sure to get out and explore nature in your backyard.